Hey y'all, so in this video, we're gonna go over three different concepts. The first being this idea of scarcity, the second being the difference between micro and macroeconomics, and the last thing just being a hodgepodge of different things that I really couldn't think of a broad and fine concept to throw it under. And before we begin, a joke. Which letter of the alphabet has the most water? The C. So scarcity. So before we move on to scarcity let's first talk about sort of what economics is. And so we can honestly look at this textbook definition, but it's a little wordy, right? And so wordy definitions make for a very, very sad person. And so here we're going to boil down our definition of economics. So first, we're going to say economics is going to be the science of scarcity. And so what exactly is scarcity? Well, scarcity is just the idea that people, companies, governments have unlimited wants, but limited resources to achieve those wants. And so here, if we're going to take a look at this term resources, well, resources can mean a bunch of different things, right? Of course, the primary thing that we think of resources is money. But resources can also mean your time. It can also mean labor. It can also mean land, etc., etc. So in other words, right, when we talk about this idea of scarcity, it's this idea where we have unlimited wants, but everything in this world to achieve those wants is limited, right? You have a limited amount of time, you have a limited amount of labor, you have a limited amount of land, limited amount of money. And so because we are unable to have everything that we desire, we have to make choices on how we are going to use our resources. And so that leads us into our second definition. We can also say that economics is the study of choices. And so what you see here, right, is this first definition where we say economics is the science of scarcity. It leads into our second definition. Because of scarcity, we have to make choices. And here in economics, right, we are going to look at the study of choices of individuals. We're going to look at the study of firms, like that's my little factory. And then we're also going to look at sort of governments. Let's just put a bunch of people there. And so now that we know what economics is, let's get into the difference between macro and microeconomics here. And so luckily, right, this is going to be pretty simple. Microeconomics is a study of small economic units, such as individuals, firms, and markets. So individuals and firms should be self-explanatory, right? Individual consumers, firms, right? Different companies. But this idea of a market is something relatively new, right? So a market, we're not going to be looking at just sort of the market of the United States. We're not going to be looking at the German market. Instead, we're going to be looking at individual markets. And what I mean by individual markets is we're going to be looking at stuff like the peach market. We're going to be looking at stuff like the pencil market. We're also going to be looking at stuff like the apple market, right? So if we look at individual goods and the markets for those individual goods, right, that is microeconomics. Macroeconomics, on the other hand, is a study of the large economy as a whole. And so here, if whenever you turn on the news or read news, if you hear the phrases like GDP, if you hear it like GNP, inflation, unemployment, etc., right? All that deals with the large United States economy or the large worldwide economy. And so because of that, that is macroeconomics. And then lastly, let's go into just sort of oddball things. I didn't really have a specific thing, so I just labeled this portion Intro to Economics here. And so how exactly is economics used? Well, economics is used in two ways. The first is theoretical economics. So theoretical economics is just basically scientists that are saying this could possibly work. They make generalizations to develop theories. So theoretically, this economic policy should bring us out of a recession. Policy economics, on the other hand, is applying that theoretical policy. So policy economics is what the government actually does. So if an economist says, theoretically, to get us out of the recession, the Federal Reserve should buy bonds. Well, policy economics then is for the Federal Reserve to actually purchase bonds from commercial banks. And lastly, we're going to get into this idea or the difference between positive and normative statements. So positive statements are statements based on facts. Normative statements are opinion statements or value judgments. And so here, right, positive statements, an example would be, right, it is 98 degrees outside right now. Right? That is a positive statement. Why? Well, because it's a statement based on fact. Well, here, a normative statement would be, right, Mrs. Purdue is the best teacher, is the best history teacher, right? So here, that is a normative statement. So why is that a normative statement? Well, because that is an opinion statement. That is a value judgment. And so in economics, we are only going to be dealing with positive statements. We don't necessarily care about normative statements here. All right, so on the next slide, if you guys go through the Google slide, there's a guided practice here. You're just going to have to tell me whether it's positive or normative. The answer should be in the comment section, so if you do it, you can check your work there. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope you guys learned a lot, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.